Good evening and welcome to the first former president of the United States convicted as a felon show tonight.
I'm just having some champagne for no reason.
Oh my gosh. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson. And well, history has been made for all the wrong reasons, once again, for Donald Trump, but for all the right reasons for the rule of law. Donald Trump found guilty on all 34 counts in his falsification of business records hush money trial in New York City. Rick Wilson, I actually shed a tear as I heard the guilty verdict coming down after each count was read.
Yep.
I felt myself welling up. Is it just me? I don't know, but
I'll tell you, we were waiting for the verdict to come down this afternoon, and there was a tension in the air and in the system and in the world because so many people believed that Donald Trump was Teflon. That he could never be affected by these things, that nothing would ever get to him, that he would always intimidate the jury or make the judge crack or something would go. And at the end of the day, these folks looked at a case full of not just the testimony of colorful people like our friend Michael Cohen or Stormy Daniels. They looked at the documents. Yes. They looked at the paper trail. They looked at the boring testimony of the accountants and the secretaries and all the folks that were a part of a criminal conspiracy engendered by Donald Trump in order to protect his campaign in the 2016 election. And because of that, this jury found it credible. I will tell you something. This man now cannot own a gun. He cannot vote. He is losing his rights. And he lost his rights not because of Joe Biden or the deep state or a conspiracy of the Justice Department. He's losing his rights because he committed a crime and he's been found guilty. 34 counts, Tara. He's a felon 34 times over.
Yep.
This is a moment where Donald Trump, for the first time in his incredibly long career of scams, lies, grifts, cons, criminal enterprises of various scopes and scales and colors and shapes, has actually had to face a criminal penalty. He's faced civil penalties before.
Right.
This is a criminal penalty.
This is criminal.
This makes him a criminal for the rest of his life. And Donald, you'll never get the smell off.
Nope. It's the other F word.
Yep.
He's a big fat felon. And
fat felon. Fatty McFellan fat.
That's right. And like I said, there's all these different emotions about this. It's like, finally, I was like screaming, yes, finally. And there were a lot of F-bombs as well. As the verdict was coming down. And but the fact that I was emotional about it was like, well, it's about time that he finally was held accountable for something. I mean, there's been so many things. And I was one of the people who said, oh, it's got to be this case first. But as the facts of the case started to unfold and as our memories were jostled and we remember what the context of this was, these actions, what this case was actually about, could have made the difference between Donald Trump getting elected in 2016 and not. And the fact that they were able to catch and kill all these stories and Donald Trump went through these illegal acts to keep it quiet, that could have been piled on top of everything else at the time in October of 2016, could have made the difference. So this was actually a big deal. It's actually a big deal. And the fact that it was so many counts, it doesn't matter that it was for each check, right? Each check was kind of its own felony. But for Donald Trump, I wish there were cameras in the courtroom for all of us to watch Donald Trump's body language when each one of those guilties came down. It was probably like a dagger every single time. It was just a dagger. He could hear it in his father's voice. Say, every time they said guilty, he heard failure, failure, failure in his father's voice in his own head, because that's what Donald Trump has always been, and his father said he would be. And now it has culminated in a felony conviction. I'm telling you know what else? It gives us faith again in our institutions because they're under attack so much. And I think people take it for granted. And here you had average American citizens doing their patriotic duty as jurors, sitting through this trial and doing what Americans do. This is part of our justice system. As imperfect as it may be, it's still our justice system that did this. This wasn't some grand conspiracy. It wasn't Joe Biden. It wasn't George Soros or whatever other bullshit that Donald Trump tries to make people believe. This is how our system works. So you either believe in the rule of law or you don't. And every Republican that sits here and says, oh, this was rigged and Donald Trump was unfair and blah, 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 they have abdicated their oath of office and their ability to criticize or say that they're the rule of law party. No, they're not. If you sit here and you denigrate the system.
You know, Tara, this is, and I want to take a quick swerve out of this for 1 second about something you were tweeting about yesterday. You know, our friends, Officer Fanone and Harry Dunn were up there at the hearings yesterday.
Yes.
And of course, the minute Michael Fanone criticized Donald Trump, within hours, his mother got swatted.
Outrageous.
As someone who has been swatted repeatedly and recently, let me tell you something. It's a terrifying, horrible experience. I want to be very clear about something. They're not the party of law enforcement, the rule of law, of cops, of back the blue. These people are monsters and thugs. And they're going to react badly to this, Tara. I predict it
it's
right
already
now.
Starting. I just heard I was on with Don Lemon on his new streaming show on YouTube. And he said that one of his Republican sources said that WinRed was crashing. Because WinRed is the fundraising mechanism, the online fundraising app mechanism that the MAGAs donate through.
Right.
So this is now becoming another call to arms for the MAGAs, and that's what Trump wants. And we can't allow them. We cannot miss a beat. Okay, they are ready to go and motivated, and everybody on the other side, the good and decent people here. We cannot afford to be apathetic or take a day of rest or think that, oh, we'll get to it later. No. Okay. We need to be just as motivated times 10.
It is vital that Americans understand this is not the end of Trump.
Correct.
This is the end of the beginning.
Yes.
This is a moment where Trump has been knocked down by his own actions. They're going to go so crazy about this, and every part of the MAGA media ecosystem, they're going to go so nuts about this. They're going to, try to turn this into their version of the big lie about the election.
Yep.
And they're going to tell amazingly, ridiculously, obviously insane stories to their people. And a lot of their people will believe them, Tara. A lot of their people will buy this stuff wholesale.
That's how January 6th happened.
Right. And it is going to be a very difficult time for this country in the next couple of weeks. Donald Trump faces a sentencing hearing on July the 11th. He may end up doing the debate from behind plexiglass at this point. This is not.
If he gets himself in trouble.
Yeah, look, he's going to get himself in more trouble.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they'll jail him before the sentencing hearing because the debate's on the 27th of June, but it's only a couple days before the Republican convention. So, I mean, it's just hard to fathom that the Republican Party is really this is the hill they're willing to die on. They're really going to go into the convention with a convicted fucking felon as their nominee.
They are.
And I know, and proudly do this whole this is wonderful. This is the best we can get. Let's make America great again with this felon.
Tara, we are going to see so much cope tonight. They're gonna be so desperately trying to spin this any other way. And as of right now, I'm getting an enormous number of hate tweets and hate emails. Like, how dare you? This is never going to be, how dare you say this? Trump, this is the Soviet Union, blah, blah, blah.
No, this is America. And in America, you are convicted and held accountable by a jury of your peers when you crime. That's what happens in a free and fair country. That's not what happens in Russia. In Russia, they kill you or they imprison you without due process. So all these people need to shove it up their ass, criticizing this process and saying that this is un-American. They're in the wrong country. Maybe Donald Trump has them convinced because he's such a lover of North Korea and Russia and Putin and all of these other dictators. where they don't get due process. So maybe these people are confused where they live. They're welcome to go to those countries. But in America, this is what we do. You have due process under the Constitution and rule of law. And when you crime and there's overwhelming evidence against you, you get convicted and you pay the price. The end. And if they don't like that, then too effing bad. That's what I have to say.
It is a moment where we're going to watch the idea of justice in this country, the idea of law and order in this country, corrupted and abused and redefined and turned into this fallacious idea that because Trump was the person who was convicted, that everything will dissolve completely before him. They believe that they can yell loud enough to undo a legal case that was decided by a jury.
Right.
Decided by a jury. It wasn't the deep state, once again. And I'm always amused by the idea that somehow, on the one hand, they want to say Joe Biden is a doddering old fool drooling into his oatmeal. And on the other hand, he's a criminal mastermind running 17 legal cases against Trump.
Right.
Which one is it, you clods?
Right.
Come on.
Because it can't be both. So which is it? It's just, it's infuriating. It really is. And, the thing about this too, it's that this isn't the only thing now. This is the second time in less than a year or third that Donald Trump has been held accountable for his behavior. The first was the E. Jean Carroll case.
Correct.
And where he civilly, but was found liable for sexual assault. And then Tish James and we almost forgot about that, with his criming with his company, $400 million fine. Now this. So we're starting to finally see Donald Trump pay a price, literally and figuratively here. And it's long overdue. This is decades in the making. Decades of this guy criming and being an unethical businessman.
And getting away with it. And folks,
he got away with it. That's right. Not anymore.
For decades.
Mm-hmm. Decades. And so did his father. So it's, it's long overdue. And so, yes, there's jubilation that he finally something. Now, I don't think he's going to jail. But, I was on with Katie Fang earlier today, too, after the verdict came down, and Glenn Kirshner was on, and he said, look, this is all well and good. He'll have a felon next to his name, and that's that. But really, it comes down to sentencing and what Judge Merchan decides. Because if there's no real penalty for this, then it's just a slap on the wrist. And it's similar to when Nixon got pardoned by Ford. Some thought, well, it was a way to get the national nightmare over with and move forward. We're in a different time now.
Ford made a mistake then.
Right. And that was Glenn's point, that here we are 50 years later. It set up a structure where a president could try to do even more, push the envelope more, and not pay a price for it. So sentencing on July 11th is the next big day to see what happens here. I don't think he's going to go to jail. I think he's probably going to either get probation or maybe home confinement. But if it's home confinement, they need to take his freaking phone away and not allow him on the internet. But if it were you or me, if it were anyone else, our ass would be today. We'd be in jail. So I don't know. We'll see. But I want to show something that LP put out, because LP is known for their speed and reaction, rapid response, and within minutes of the verdict, out with the latest video. Check it out.
Donald Trump found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree.
You're a criminal, Donald. That's what the jury said. Not the deep state, not the Democrats, not the Biden administration. A jury, regular people who saw the evidence and felt sick. You're a criminal, and you did it to yourself.
Nobody's ever seen anything like this. It's a shame.
Your defense was weak because you're weak. They had no argument because there is no argument. You were too scared to testify because you knew Donald. You know, you're guilty. Guilty as sin. Guilty as charged.
Yeah, and no, Donald Trump, you're not a political prisoner, as his this
No,
new
you're not Nelson
fundraising digital
Mandela,
ad
Mother
that's out right
Teresa, or
now.
anybody else.
Well, he's got it. Michelle just pointed out that the Trump fundraising digital ad going out right now is "I am a political prisoner." No, you're
Not
not.
yet, bitch.
Yeah, no, not ever. Actually,
No, not ever.
you'll never be a
when you get down
political
to it.
prisoner. Oh, with this fist in the air. Is it the picture with the fist from the courtroom the other day? Because that's probably why he did it. Oh, it's a different one. Okay, never mind.
Well, by the way, when he left the courtroom today, his eyes were exceedingly puffy. I think Donald Trump had a little weep.
I mean,
by the way, if you're Todd Blanche, you better make sure you send that bill in right away because they
Oh,
don't get paid.
Oh no, he should have gotten the money up front because he's not getting paid. I
Chris
mean,
Ties, one of his other lawyers, was smart. He's like, nope, give me $5 million, then I'll represent you for the year.
yeah, that's the only way to do it because Trump's notorious for not paying his legal bills. And you know who told me that? George Conway in his kitchen when he was still married to Kellyanne Conway before she went and decided to go to the dark side. He told me that in 2016. So Trump was notorious for that in the legal community. And, you know, and did it come out in the trial that he fired one of his comptrollers because they wanted to pay bills in full and he was like, no. So, I mean, that's just part of his sleazy, unethical business practices. And it's about damn time that there was some justice served here with this. Honestly, I mean, we also had a little fun with it too. Before the verdict came out, LP put out a little animated feature of Donald Trump whining after every single court day for the most part, bitching and complaining about how unfair it all is. So take a look. Courthouse Confidential, it's called.
Welcome to another day in paradise, okay? I'd like to testify. In fact, I always testify. I've never not once not testified. It's a mistrial, okay? I missed most of it. I was resting my eyes, okay? They got nothing, and every legal expert says so. You got Jonathan Turley, very respected. He says Trump is innocent. In any way, probably Stormy liked it. You got Janine, the Dersh, Saul Goodman, Ally McBeal, the Lincoln lawyer. And you got Storm and Norman. She says, I banged her in the missionaries. Fake. She's more like Fort Knox in there. No one can get in for 3 blocks. Buttoned up tighter than Tom Fitton. You can't prove it, so none of it happened. But if it did... yeah. But if it did... She came up to me with tears in her eyes and she says, sir, you have to be the most virile golf champion since Dorfon Golf. And now she's saying it was over very quickly, which, by the way, totally fake, okay? In fact, she faked the entire thing very quickly. No, I don't think so. They don't call me the 3-term president for nothing, if you catch my meaning. I call it Banana Republic, okay? Which is a slippery slope.
Oh my God. I hadn't seen that one yet.
Those are from our friends over at History Falls. Amazing work, as always.
Oh my gosh. You guys are too much. This is what happens when you're unsupervised.
Clearly.
Oh my God. Well, look, this kind of, what's interesting to me about this too, is that the broader political implications, I don't know if you saw this earlier today, Rick, that there was an NPR PBS poll that came out that said 75% of people polled, two-thirds of the people polled said it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if Trump was convicted or not. It wouldn't change their vote.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? It was a national poll. It doesn't matter what nationally people think. What matters is in the swing states. And we already saw polling that showed, especially for the Republicans, those Haley Republicans that said we're not voting for Trump, that it would matter, that they didn't feel comfortable voting for a convicted felon. So now our job is to get them to vote for Joe Biden. You don't want them to staying home, I guess. I just feel weird about that. But no, how about you make the choice as an American and you vote for the non-criminal? How about that? It shouldn't be hard.
Right. It is. Look, the conventional wisdom in the media is, it's all baked in the cake. Everybody thinks this about Trump anyway. It's no one cares. Actually, we're starting to see in the numbers people do care.
Yes.
There's a reason why you had millions of Americans voting for Nikki Haley, which, by the way, great timing, Nikki. Super.
Yeah.
Really well done. Brilliant.
Jesus, whoever
timing.
told her to do that. My God.
But, you know, people are affected by this. They do see this because the number of people who are out there, the ban line used to be 3 to 8%, then it expanded to 7 to 15%. And if you model Nikki Haley's vote in these early states, it's between 7 and 25% of Republicans are like, I'm out with Trump, I'm done.
Yeah.
And even if you get half of those, Trump can't win.
That's right. That's right. Even if we go back to the original Bannon line, right? The 4 to 6, 4 to 7%, he can't win. And that line has been pushed a lot further because of Dobbs. And now this is a factor. And you know what? It should be. What has happened to us as a country that being a convicted felon for trying to pay hush money and falsify business records to impact your election doesn't matter anymore. I mean, that says a lot about us as a country. So it tells you that we can't rest. Like I said, they're very motivated on the other side. We have to be just as motivated to actually stand up for decency and the rule of law, and an America that we can be proud of, that we can tell our kids that we beat back this scourge of authoritarianism, of national populism, of Christian nationalism, and of criming as a shrug, as a characteristic for a future president of the United States. Like, come on, America, do better.
Right,
You
do
have a chance
better.
to in November.
Look, Tara, I mean, one of the things that we're seeing here, you immediately can see the sort of terrain and the profile of the MAGA media infrastructure.
Yep.
They're all going to be on the same message by tomorrow. They're all going to have the same exact message.
They're on message now. Not forget tomorrow, Rick. It's already started. They were previewing it when they all marched up there. Yes.
Yeah.
They're doing it already. It's been previewed. The memo was out.
With all this, though, they're missing something very, very, very vital. Donald Trump is now a felon. And by the way, I want to correct all you MAGA dipshits on my Twitter feed. In the meantime, when I said Donald Trump can no longer vote or own a gun, they think because he's a non-violent felon that he gets to vote and own and can own firearms. Au contraire, my friends, wherever he served the sentence, whether it's in Florida or New York, if you were a non-violent felon, you may not vote and you may not own a gun.
Correct.
In New York, you must pay your restitution and complete your entire sentence. In Florida, you must pay your restitution, complete your entire sentence, and petition Ron DeSantis for permission to vote.
And that was a big fight, by the way, to restore voting rights for felons and for low-level felons, by the way. Right? Wasn't there a ballot initiative? Because I was a Florida resident when that was going on.
Yes, it was Amendment 4.
Yes,
in
I
Florida.
voted for it.
And Ron DeSantis decided that the constitutional amendment in the state of Florida that was passed by 63% of the Florida voters, that he was going to ignore it. And so they set up a special secret police force to arrest men, mostly African-American men.
That's right.
Completed their sentences, paid their restitution, and tried to register to vote.
That's right. We talked about that on the show.
I want to see them try to. I want somebody to go to Mar-a-Lago right now and get that. Donald Trump's gun is the most New York City garbage rod you could imagine. It's a 1970s 38 special snub nose revolver.
Are you serious?
Like a grandma gun, but but I want somebody to go seize that firearm right now.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
This whole thing is just.
Oh my god, Rick! How did we get here? Jeez.
Listen,
I mean,
we got here because America wanted a celebrity moron for president, and they got one.
Yeah.
And they got one. Here we are.
Well, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Guys, I just want to say this. Maybe it'll be controversial. Maybe it won't.
Uh-oh.
They're going to make Donald Trump their bitch in prison, and we're going to make Donald Trump our bitch at the ballot box. Support the Lincoln Project, and we will drive him into the dustbin of history so that the only people that get to go and see Donald Trump have to stare at him through a plexiglass window in a holding cell.
I mean, that's it. We should end the show. We should end the show right there. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
No, but before we go, honestly, I mean that's pretty good. Make Donald Trump your bitch at the ballot box. I figure out how to put that on a mug, on a hat, on a bumper sticker.
Right?
Oh my God. But you know what? That's the kind of attitude folks need to have, in that it's we need to do what it takes within our system here to make sure that Donald Trump is defeated at the ballot box. You know, that's almost without that example, but that was the same tone that President Biden took earlier today after the verdict came out, where he said, if you want to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, we do it at the ballot box. I thought that was a smart tweet for them to put out that struck the right tone, because he's right. This isn't, nobody wants to like see their political opponents jailed, or, that's the way. No, you want to do it through the democratic process at the ballot box. That's what America is supposed to be about, despite Donald Trump's fantasies about turning our country into a dictatorship. And that's, I think, something that we need to continue to remind people. We have a responsibility. We decide the future leaders of our country.
We do.
And it's a binary choice. Do you want a convicted felon, or do you want the older guy who has actually done a great job as president, is a good and decent man, not perfect. You may not get everything you want, but he's not a felon. He's not a rapist. He's not an unethical guy with 3 wives and multiple baby mamas. He's not stealing national security secrets and giving them to our enemies. He's not writing love letters and receiving love letters from dictators. He's not fantasizing about Hitler-esque type of fascism in America. He's not trying to send women's rights back to the 1840s. He's not trying to make a mockery of minorities in this country by using stereotypes and tropes to get their votes. He's not talking about setting up concentration camps for immigrants in this country. I mean, come on, people. The contrast is real. Tonight,
if you heard the story today about the Apprentice tape with Trump using the N-word, if you don't think he's saying that tonight about Alvin Bragg, you'd be mistaken.
So, I mean, I'll just, as a quick aside, on Don Lemon's show earlier, Mark Lamont Hill, who I've had many arguments with, but on this we're on the same page. Kwame Jackson was on. The Kwame that Trump was talking about was on. We were all on together about an hour ago, hour and a half. And they said that exact same thing. You don't think that the R part of that, the N word was being used? This is the R, ending in R, not an ending in N. Okay,
the hard R.
The hard R. And Mary Trump has written in her book and has said it before that in her household growing up, her grandparents used the N word all the time. It was not uncommon. So this is appalling as it is for people. This is not a shock. Of course, Donald Trump said that. And he said it repeatedly. He's probably saying it now about Alan Bragg and about Tish James and about Fani Willis, because these are Black accomplished officers of the court.
Weird how he never has a harsh word about Eileen Cannon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I wonder why.
I can't figure it out. It's so baffling to me. It's so opaque. I can't understand what I can't seem to get it right. Excuse me.
Wasn't that the slip that Eric Trump made the other day, yesterday?
Because we're white.
Because we're white. I think he meant right, but still, it was a Freudian slip, but appropriate. But yeah, I mean, and that also speaks to what's happening with the Supreme Court. I know a lot has happened since the last time we've been together. And by the way, I'm glad to see you feeling better and looking better, because the last time I saw you, you were sick as hell and had pneumonia. So welcome back.
Yeah, pneumonia, do not recommend. 0 5 stars.
Yes. So glad to see you feeling better and back. But a lot has happened. And this whole thing going on, since we're talking about the rule of law with Samuel Alito and the flags and his wife and the Supreme Court being compromised, this is where we say all the time that, like, the Supreme Court's not going to save us. No one's going to save us but us at the ballot box. So everyone, please stop thinking, even this court case here is not going to save us from Donald Trump. Only we are. If we've got Supreme Court justices that have wives who are flying January 6th flags, for God's sakes, and he's trying to act like, well, it was her. I don't have any control over her, and she's going to do what she's going to do. And Like, really? Where are you, Justice Roberts? Where are you?
He is a very broken man at this point. Roberts is a broken
Jeez.
guy. This is not he is not a man who cares about the reputation of the court. If he did, he would take steps to rein in Alito.
Yes.
He would take steps
And Thomas.
to rein in Clarence Thomas. And the fact of the matter is, he doesn't care. He's decided he wants to remain as Chief Justice, and he doesn't care. These other guys are now telling us just what kind of overwhelming and clear political bias they have in this matter, and they're pre-gaming it. Look, they went out and said that under no circumstances is this going to be the kind of case that changes things. Anyway, I'm sorry, I lost track there just now. Apologies.
No, that's okay. But what's
I'm getting bombed right now with reporter messages on my signal.
Oh, yeah, I know. I had to turn my message. I had to put do not
too.
disturb on my phone because it's like, and like domestic, international, like BBC,
Yeah.
like Australia. I'm like, all right, guys, look.
Australia, I did Australia, I did Beeb.
Right. I'm like, okay, listen. We have a show to do for our Lincoln Project followers and supporters at 7:00. So I can't do anything until after that. So, but no, the point though also about this, the bigger point too, is that the Supreme Court has to make some pretty serious decisions about presidential power and immunity.
Yeah.
And, the fact that they would even entertain the argument that, well, yes, it could be an official act while you're in office to assassinate, to order the SEAL Team 6 to assassinate your political opponent. And that there's a possibility that Alito or Thomas would be like, yeah, maybe, because of Donald Trump and like whatever weirdo allegiance they have to this far right ideology. That is crazy to me.
If that's the case, then I don't want them to say a damn word if Joe Biden wakes up tomorrow morning with a heart on and goes, "Hey, go kill Donald Trump for me, will you?" To SEAL Team 6.
Well, wait a minute.
That's what they want.
Yes, but according to Trump, the Justice Department ordered by Joe Biden already tried to assassinate him. I mean, it's crazy. We couldn't make this stuff up. They've already ticked that box off of the crazy talk. They've already tried that Joe Biden tried to have me assassinated.
It is truly an alternate reality.
It is.
It's an alternate reality. They don't look. One of the things to really consider here, and I mean this to my Republican friends who are still holding on to clinging to Trump. Spend a day, just one day. Don't watch Fox. Don't watch OAN. Don't watch Newsmax. Get off Twitter for one day. Go out in the world and then come back to me and tell me you see Antifa burning your city down, or a billion immigrants from mental institutions charging over the border, or an economy in shambles. It's all a lie. Yeah. You're being lied to. All of you are being lied to. And here's the biggest lie you're telling yourselves right now, is that Donald Trump isn't a criminal, because he's a criminal.
That's right.
You know it in your hearts, folks. You really do. You know it in your hearts that Trump is a criminal. And you may not like it. You may think it's, a miscarriage of justice or a rigged system or a kangaroo court. If you feel that way, again, shut off Fox for one day. Go read the court transcripts. Go read the trial transcript. Go read the testimony. And then you come back. But you can't. You won't. You can't make yourself have that suspension of the fantasy world where Donald Trump is Nelson Mandela or Donald Trump is Mother Teresa. You want to believe in things about him that aren't true and have never been true and will never be true. And I Tara, once in a while I say this. Tonight, I actually feel bad for the people he's tricked. I feel sad for these people. They are right now, they're on there clicking that donate button on his website, desperate to give him money because they think, I'm going to save Trump. I'm going to save him. You know what he's going to do, folks? He's going to spend your money on his private plane and his lifestyle and his businesses and his lawyers. He's not trying to run for president. He's trying to stay out of jail.
That's right. So, well, I don't feel sorry for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for the rest of the country that has to suffer the consequences of the ilk that MAGA and Trumpism has brought upon us. And those people at this point who continue to still support it and make excuses for it, they've had 9 years of Donald Trump in politics to figure it out. And if they still want to wallow in his shit, that's their free choice to do it.
Have
and
fun.
That's right. Like, I'm sorry. I really don't have any sympathy for them anymore at this point. But what does make me sad is how many people have actually been duped into this and how susceptible they were to it, and how our system and our culture has been impacted by it, that we are teetering on the brink of losing it all. That's the part that I'm sad about. And I'm also fired up and mad about the fact that we're not going to allow this to destroy our country. Because what do I say? There are more of us than there are of them, but we have to be 10 times more motivated and 10 times more dedicated and focused and paying attention, because if we want to save this democracy, it does not defend itself. It's up to us.
It does not indeed.
That's right. And on that note, we will see you guys next week. We will leave you with Last Week in the Republican Party. And guess what, Rick?
And next week's Last Week in the Republican Party is going to be a shit show.
Oh, my God. And Donald Trump is a felon.
And a criminal. 34 counts, Donald. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, my friend. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Lady Justice.
Guys.
Well, guys, I had to come down and witness the Bolshevik show trials.
But just to be clear, you're voting for someone who you believe tried to subvert the peaceful transfer of power, that can't even achieve his own policies, that lied about the election even after his attorney general told him that the election wasn't stolen. And as the former chief law enforcement in this country, you're going to vote for someone who is facing 88 criminal counts.
The answer to the question is yes.
I will be voting for Trump.
Will you accept the results regardless of who wins the election?
So, Caitlin, I got to say, I think that's actually a ridiculous question.
The 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Showing up at a libertarian event, which, they love him there too.
None of us are great fans of Donald Trump.
I saw a wave of red hats at the Libertarian Convention.
The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa.
Couple of boos for the policies, not directly at going towards President Trump.
That's nice.
Trump is just incredible. Abolish term limits. Make him president for life.
Jesse James Rumson, seen here wearing a panda head, was found guilty of 8 charges, including assaulting a police officer.
God, all right, Jesus, Mary, and then Trump.
You are looking at the very limited edition Trump Black Card. Listen to this. This sucker is metal, folks.
Merrick Garland basically issued a kill order for President Trump.
There is an open borders sort of caucus, informal caucus in the Democrat Party, and they push this.
Really?
They push this agenda. Yeah. Why would the president knowingly allow this? Because they wanted to turn these people into voters.
This is not like an illegal immigrant. They're building something. They have something in mind.
The Democrats know if they can control this White House for another 4 years, America as we know it and have grown up in will be gone.
You looking forward to the rally, Mr. Santos?
Absolutely.
That's not.